I've been doing this a long time, and when people ask me what I am, I tell them I'm a professional wizard. Thank you for laughing. I hope you'll notice that I said professional because every single person in this room is a wizard. I just happen to do it to make my living. And the gift of the wizard is to effect a transformation. It's one of the 12 Jungian archetypes. It's one of the 17 great stories in life. Shakespeare was right. The world is but a stage, and the men and women merely players upon it, each with their exits and their entrances, and over the course of a lifetime, playing every part. We play every part, and the wizard affecting a transformation because they are an outside-in view. They don't have an axe to grind. You know, Gandalf was welcome everywhere, but he didn't stay very long, if you kind of notice. They give you a view you can't get by being in the tribe. Well, first, I think we learned a lot about the fact that he had a vision. I think another great thing that we learned from Apple, I try not to talk about Apple a whole lot because it's kind of cliche, but remember there's only 4 relationships in an ecosystem: competitive, symbiotic, predatory, and parasitic. How funny, there's only 4 relationships in an economy. They're the same 4: competitive, symbiotic, predatory, and parasitic, but you're just now in all 4 with somebody at the same time. And people forgot that Steve Jobs and Apple almost went under. And who saved them? Larry Ellison and Bill Gates. Because you don't let something die in the ecosystem. And they're the 2 biggest stockholders. Pretty good investment, too. Yeah. And so perseverance, vision and perseverance, you can never underestimate perseverance. As far as the management style, I think we're now starting to see already revisionist history. It's funny how when someone can't stand up for themselves anymore, that those kinds of things come out. When Joseph Campbell died, people started to want to say he was a racist. I don't think so. But I think that's part of it. The other part has to do with the sense of the aesthetics and design and the importance of targets done the same kind of thing. It clearly not only was in the way you looked at the product, but also in how they were able to use design in areas of both ergonomics and particularly retail. I don't think there's any doubt that they have totally changed the calculus of how retailers are looking at retail. And retailing is the retelling of a tale, by the way. So, hey, you got to know who you are, you got to know where you want to go. You've got to recognize your seminal moments, and you have to have the attitude of an insurgent, and that's, to me, what they did. Perhaps I should tell you one of my favorite stories here, and it happens to do with the best question I've ever been asked in my career, which is, what's the best criteria for the evaluation of the success of my business? And I was asked that by a very smart guy named Ari de Geer, who ran scenarios-based planning for Royal Dutch at the time. And I said, Ari, that's a great question. And that's what my dad taught me you say when you have no clue what the answer is. Right? You buy a little time. And they laughed, and I went away and thought about it. And my answer was so simple, I was afraid to tell them. And finally, I got over that. And after about a month, I called Ari up and I said, I think the single greatest criteria for the evaluation of the success of any institution, particularly any business, is simply being around a long time. How come the most powerful corporation in the world, and to me that was, at the time, General Electric, is still here and its biggest competitor for 87 years is not, which was called Westinghouse? Why does one survive and the other one doesn't? And they gave me the money to study what turned out to be 300 businesses that were at least 100 and upwards to over 400 years old. The first share of stock, by the way, was given 402 years ago, which was the Dutch East Indies Trading Company. And I remind people that I believe Oxford this year gave away degrees for the 672nd year. So, there's plenty of institutions that have been around a long time. And when we studied them, we identified 4 things that were correlated with causality. And please remember, if things are correlated without causality, it really doesn't mean a lot. Abraham Lincoln liked oatmeal cookies, and John Wilkes Booth liked oatmeal cookies, but I really don't think that's why he shot him. Thank you very much. So here were the four things. Number one was access to money. That's why you guys are here today. Number one reason for business failure will always be undercapitalization. Number two was incredible sensitivity to their stakeholders, not their stockholders, but the upwards of a Fortune 100, 80 to 90 different stakeholding groups. There's multiple levels of most of them. Three was a tolerance for ambiguity, constantly challenging convention and doing that in a systemic way. And number four, none of these companies made their principal source of revenue anymore from what made them famous in the first place. General Electric was a power company, not the world's largest commercial bank. The Kohler people in Wisconsin didn't make faucets and fixtures, they made industrial pig troughs. DuPont made gunpowder. The Marriott brothers had diners. Coca-Cola was a patent medicine. The only anomaly I've ever seen of this is little monks that still make champagne. I was given the opportunity to study the creation mythos of 30 cultures that spanned 4,000 years. And I wanted to see if I could find, again, correlated and causality, and I came to recognize there are 5 pillars of all creation, invention, and innovation. The first is scope. We have to give ourselves permission to think big. We've constantly, our whole lives, been told to color within the lines. You have to actually give yourself permission to allow yourself to think. Like Sir John Brown, at the time he was John Brown, after giving me 3 months to go everywhere in the world that BP was, it was like I had his ring on and they'd make these people kiss the ring, you know, this crazy guy with the wild hair, and I used to wear shorts everywhere. And after going and landing in a helicopter in the North Sea and going to Alaska and Venezuela, and by the way, never go to Venezuela and Lebanon in the same year on your passport, you know, that wasn't good. Jordan didn't help any either in that one either, but and then dress like and have hair and all that. After doing all this, and I came and sat in the boardroom at BP House in London, and he said, "What do you think we ought to do?" I said, "I think you should fund Greenpeace in perpetuity as a mitzvah." Now I knew they weren't going to do that. He knew what I was doing. And we started to talk about it. And if you want to move to x plus 5 and you only look at x plus 5, you only move to x plus 2. You got to go look at x plus 10. And it wasn't but 3 months later that we made the commitment to become a green oil company. And by the way, it kept BP from becoming an acquisition target. And the next year, I got to write John's speeches for a while. The next year, he was the keynote address at the Greenpeace conference. And he walked out and looked at everyone and said, "Usually you're on my platform." I thought that was a very funny line. He did too. Curiosity. What are you curious about? What are your clients curious about? What are your people curious about? What are your customers curious about? Curiosity, from the Greek word historia, history, that to which society makes its inquiries. This is the unleashing of the ability to start being conceptual, is to looking at areas of curiosity. Challenging convention, I've referenced that before. It came out of the study that referenced the best criteria for success. It came out here as well. You've got to systemically challenge convention. And that means that every time you're on top, you change. Like Bill Walsh, in my opinion, used to be able to do this in football. Attention to detail. I'm a big fan of Admiral Rickover, Hyman Rickover, who, if you're not familiar with him, created the nuclear navy when we were the only people in the world who really had a navy. At the end of World War II, we were almost 50% of the world's GDP. And we had the navy of navies, and he convinced our government to go nuke. Unbelievable. And by the way, he was Peter Drucker's great, and they used to love to debate each other on management theory. He believed that the academic approach to management was hooey, and the two of them used to go back and forth. And one of the key dimensionalities he saw in success and in success of invention and innovation was about the ability to pay attention to detail without micromanaging. And the fifth is play. We are not Homo sapiens sapiens, which is the actual way it's to be said, human schmatty schmatty, human smart smart. We're not smart, we're smart smart. We are homo ludens, we're players. The number one goal in life is to survive, and the number one strategy to do that is to play your way to success. Thomas Edison used to interview every person that they hired in the beginnings of General Electric, and every time he would interview the person, it would be at lunch, and every time they would deliver a menu and a bowl of soup. And if you salted the soup before you tasted it, the interview was over. Okay? Because you don't understand deductive reasoning is about play. It has to go across the organization. Too many innovative things are siloed to a product or to a service. It can be applied across the entirety of any aspect, any department within an organization. And ritual. There's a company I've worked with that has created something called Toast Day. Everyone brings in a toaster and something to toast. And they've ritualized that as part of an innovation experience. Humans respond, tribes respond to ritualization. And starting to recognize how to do that is really critical, I think, to the success. And finally, incubation. Inspiration and incubation in large corporations are really bad. And I'm not using the word incubation like an incubator. I guess maybe I am. But I'm saying that companies always go, now, 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 now. They don't let you think about things. And the process has to develop, in my opinion, a philosophy, a great philosophy of invention, the ability to let people walk away and think about it.